Monday, everyone. It is July 22nd, and we are at the end of the month. Gosh, time has gone by in such a way that we don't even realize that it's about to be August. So I want to thank those that have joined us, those that will catch this recording live on Facebook, and who may even catch it afterwards. I love today's topic because I love studying the brain. I think the brain is amazing, and today is World Brain Day. So I kind of want to tap into a few things today. I definitely want to welcome the new names and faces that I see. And I want us to see, how do we operate with our brain? Because we're not taught to be mindful in this sense of understanding what the brain is. So I am going to share my screen, and I want you to, if you want to take notes, you definitely are more than welcome to take notes. I do share this portion in a workshop that I offer, which will be starting on August 3rd. But I want to kind of talk about human whole brain development. How do we utilize our entire brain? Because oftentimes we may just access one part of the brain. And so there's ways that we can celebrate our brain health, things that we can do. But I want to just go over this part, this quadrant of how the brain works. So we have our rational self, we have our safekeeping self, we have our feeling self, and we have our experimental self. Now, why is this important? Well, if we don't know how the brain works, then how can we really use our brain at its full capacity? I am one that I love movies, and one of my favorite movies that kind of talks about the brain is Lucy. It is with Morgan Freeman, and I think Charlize Theron is her name. Again, the movie is called Lucy. The Matrix is another one, but Lucy kind of shows you how the capacity of the brain really isn't used. And so when we look at the brain on this World Brain Day, in what ways do you analyze or be logical or critical to yourself or realistic? That is where we're rational. That's when we kind of try to figure out what is going on, when we rationalize a thing that we encounter in our perception. Because again, the perception is what we think based on our experiences. And our perspectives change when we learn more, when we try to analyze, when we really go through this process of the brain. The next step would be the safekeeping of self. This is where we take action. This is where we establish a procedure and we get things done. We organize and timely we plan. So it's kind of like you have to analyze whether or not a thing is for you, right? Before you take the action. Sometimes it may be presented and you say, that's not for me. And you make the decision to not do it and you choose to do something else to get it done. And then sometimes you go to the feeling aspect of self. This is when you're sensitive to others. You like to teach, you like touch, you're very supportive, you're expressive in how you feel about things, and you can be a bit emotional. I always talk about emotions, energy being put in motion. What energy are we putting in motion when we are going through this thought process? Because it's okay to feel, but again, based off of that feeling, how do you move? How do you move? And then you have the fourth corridor, which is the frontal part of the brain, which talks about the imagination, the speculation, the taking risk, breaking rules, like surprises. The reason I like this model is because, again, it activates all parts of your brain. If you only stay stuck in overanalyzing, then you cannot move forward. You cannot take action. You can't get things done because you may be overthinking. And that overthinking then can create anxiety. It can then create blockages in how you move forward. And so when we put ourselves in a place to be expressive or even talk about the said thing that we've been analyzing, it can move and shift and bring in a new perspective. New perspectives for me, I'm still like a kid. I still watch animation. So a lot of movies, to me, it activates my imagination. It helps me to see things from different perspectives. Just like a child who is curious, how do we stay in this aspect of ourselves even as we get older? Because sometimes we say, oh, I'm too old to do that. But then you have some people that are in their 70s that are bungee jumping. That's not my thing personally, but I will never say that I won't do it. So when we look at this chart, have you or do you, with your thought process, go through all cycles before you actually make the decision to, because it may not be in this order. It may not happen in this order. It may happen into where you feel first, you're with your feeling self first, and then you analyze and then you go into the imagination and then take action. So it's your thought process. There is no right or wrong way to do this. It's just to help you understand, how do you utilize your brain? How do you activate those different parts of your brain when it comes to this? Because again, there is no specific order. It is based off of you and how you move. And so, me, for example, I may overanalyze at times. And when I tend to overanalyze, I freeze and I don't move forward on the said thing. But I also have accountability partners or people that I can call and talk it out so that I can have a logical perspective given to me versus one where I become emotional because of that said thing that I've overanalyzed. And I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, because again, sometimes these things are not introduced to us. And so we don't understand how this may apply to us. So I like graphics because it helps you understand, well, maybe this is the route that I take. This is my learning process of how my brain works, because again, there is no right or wrong. And so I'm going to leave it up just in case someone wants to continue to look at it, take pictures. But I do want to talk about this. Like, what do you find your thought process to be? How do you work with those areas when, you know, you may overthink or you may not move or you may have an imagination that is like super grandiose that is not realistic. Because sometimes we can walk as if we're happy, but on the inside we may not be because we don't have anyone to express those things with. So I love I love this model. This is a Herman global model, so you can look at Herman HBDI, or you could just Google HBDI assessments, and it is an assessment that you can take. It is something that is mainly used in corporate. However, I like to use it because of the community. I think that if we take this step in our own communities, we'll be able to look at things differently. I.e., right now, we're dealing with a lot of people that may have anxiety about this election. And now we have Kamala Harris coming up with against, Trump. So some people's thought process with this whole experience may take them specifically just to this emotion, but not make moves on, again, what preventative actions, what things that we need to take, global warming, all of these different things outside of us. But when we think of our outside world, it really is what's going on inside in the collective mind. So, in what ways in your community can you see this being used in your family or in your household as you are communicating with other people? Because again, the brain is very vast. It is something that our second brain is connected in our gut. So the way that we say, oh, I have this gut feeling, do you take yourself through this process? Or when you get angry and you feel the heat rise from your lower back, your spine, and it goes up to your head and then you're sweating. Have you taken yourself through these steps of what does that look like? Okay, I feel this way. Let me analyze that. What action can be taken towards what I feel in order for me to be playful here and not speculate and get stuck or caught up in something? Any questions? It is a topic of discussion that I would like to have. What do you think about the brain? Memory loss. Some of the things that I'm going to share today are ways to help actually strengthen your brain, because there's so many nerves that are going on in your brain. Your brain is filled with water, whether we realize it or not. And for those that have been with me for some time, we talk about how the water that is in our body. It's messages from the water with Dr. His name is slipping my mind right now, but he did a Dr. Emoto. He actually did an experiment talking about the brain, so, or just water itself. And so knowing that the water is majority body, how are we thinking? How are we creating ease in our life or dis-ease? So let me pull up this other thing. Are there any questions when we think about this process? Hi, Miss Phyllis. I see the baby. Hi, Brianna. Welcome.
Hi, Iya Kemi. Hi, everyone. So good to be here. I have a question in terms of question slash comment with the four quadrants. How does that show up in terms of like your attachment styles? Because I can see like for me in work, maybe I'm using maybe more my rational because that's the environment that's sort of promoted. And whereas maybe in family, my attachment style may be a little bit less secure. And so I might be a little bit more anxious. And so maybe I tend to go to another part of that quadrant, maybe the emotional side. And I'm wondering like, what's your advice or thoughts around just how in certain spaces you navigate differently?
And that's a great question because one of the exercises that you can do during this, when it talks about healthy brain, a lot of us don't put ourselves in the shoes of another person, right? And so when we put ourselves in the shoes of someone else, it kind of harnesses that power of bringing a different context to the situation so that you're not easily triggered, or easily go into a state of anxiety because of this person saying something. And then also speaking your truth, if it bothered you, being able to just say, hey, that really offended me, or that really, touched a part of me that I didn't really know was there. And I have to just let you know. A perfect example, a mother may say something and it may be triggering, i.e., I don't understand why you're doing that. It's not making sense to me type statement. And you're wasting your time and money, but yet what you're doing is investing in yourself. So you can simply say that really did offend me or hurt me because I'm working on my dream goal. So for you to find it not be, useful to you doesn't mean that it's not useful for me. So it's allowing you to be expressive as well as feel and be logical about just honest how you feel, but that putting yourself in someone else's shoes, how would this person respond or why are they responding that way? It's helping you to look outside of your scope and giving you a new perspective. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, that did. That's really helpful. Thank you. Yes.
You're so welcome. Another way to also work through this cycle of things is to embrace your inner introvert. And I'm going to share this. This is also from the same company. It is thinkherman.com, and that's Herman with two N's. But these are ways that you can actually celebrate. And anybody that may want to take pictures, you can do so if you want to get a grip a view of this, but movement is one of the ways. It could be dancing, it could be jump roping, it could be a walk in the afternoon. But what that does is it circulates the blood and it releases certain mood altering chemicals. So some people, for example, when they're upset, they go jogging, running, boxing, martial arts. Some people may do yoga, but whatever it is, you want to make sure that your body is moving, not just from your couch to your refrigerator to the bathroom and back to the couch. Meaning you want to get out in nature. You want to make sure that you're exploring nature or doing something to again create a good environment physically, but also mentally. It'll lessen the depression and things of that nature. The other thing is your inner introvert. What does that mean? Being quiet still within yourself. And then when you're in that space, do you write down your thoughts or do you just let the thoughts be there? It's really good to write down those thoughts. Another way is A shower. A cold shower normally does work as well. It does relax your brain state. I would say even a bath is something that you can also help in those moments of anxiety. Um, I like using certain herbs or oils in my bath. So lavender, if you're allergic to lavender, it could be something eucalyptus, chamomile. Those are things that you can actually do as well to help with this meditation and taking a shower. Daydreaming. I don't know how many of you guys still daydream. I love daydreaming. I'm like a kid when I daydream. So hopefully you guys are all still daydreaming, because daydreaming is something that really can activate your brain to be creative in pretty much co-creating with the creator. You know, weird ideas, something that may be weird to you may actually be an idea that can become lucrative, or something that you can share with somebody else. But it does bring an optimal state for you to generate just newness. If you think of a kid, a child is always, to me, daydreaming. And sometimes we forget to daydream because we're in this rat race. We're always going to work home, or even those that may be retired. I didn't work so much, I'm just going to sit here and pop some bonbons, you know, whatever that may be for the retired person. And then we already discussed putting yourself in someone else's shoes. In what ways do you feed your brain? Feeding your brain is not just the foods that are rich in omega 3s, you know, seafood, salmon, things of that nature, but in what way are you feeding your brain? Maybe going even to an art gallery, or going out to a place that you've never been to, because again, you've seen different art from different perspectives. A museum that may have history. Some people don't like seeing history, but those things also help with the brain. And yes, Grace, Miss Grace, I will put it in the chat. And Miss Brenda, do you hear us now? Just put a thumbs up, because I just saw that you said you can't hear. And for those that are on the Zoom with us now, it is in the chat. For those that are not live with us, it is Think Herman with two M's, H-E, and two R's, HERRMANN.com. You can also put in brain day 15 activities, or activities for brain health. That would also bring it up as one of the top links. Moving forward with the last 15 of the 7 of the 15 is also your social brain energy. For you, you may not be able to have the capacity to be around people all day, or so many people in a day. How do you take yourself out to, again, what's your social battery? What is your social capacity? If you're at work around people all day, do you take the time off to be by yourself, or walk, or do things of that nature? Another thing to help brain activity is your own mental Olympics. Challenge yourself to something different. Read a book, listen to a podcast. I like to play word games on my phone, like where they're scrabbled up and scrambled up, and then I have to find however many words are in that. That's also a good mental exercise for your brain. New sounds, you know, for those that know me, I do sound baths. So different frequencies can definitely trigger certain things and open up your brain to certain things. Of course, sites, you know, I'm a nature person. I always talk about go somewhere new. Take a new hike, go to a new beach that you've never been to, a new park in the area. That can also trigger parts of your brain that you didn't even know was there, because when you get accustomed to seeing stuff, then it becomes of the norm and you're not as interested. If you think of a baby that plays with the same toy, after a while that baby's going to throw out that toy because they've lost interest, and then they're going to start playing with a new toy. So it's kind of like doing that. Another thing to do is also look through the photographer's lens. So if you're looking at visuals, tap into different visuals. Instagram, Facebook, Google, whatever you may be thinking. For me personally, I like looking at different cultures. So I would definitely like different cultures. Miss Benton, here is 6 and 7. Feeding your brain and taking in some art. And even for me, What about creating art? Some people say, oh, I can't draw. My statement is always, if you walk into a hotel and you see a big red square, I think you can draw, because a big red square, I'm sure that hotel paid thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars for. You too can do art if somebody can sell their art and it's just a square. The other thing that is good is creating a brain-friendly list. So music, you may want to find some music that is calming. You can also find some high tempo beat if you want to have an energy spike, so your energy is low. You may want to put on some up tempo music. Then also, what about listening to the sound of a heartbeat? Your own heartbeat, or heartbeats on whatever platform you use, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever that may be, or just taking the time to even close your ears and listen to your own heartbeat. That is also something that can help with the brain as well. Doodling, if you're feeling stuck, if you're at the computer still at work and you work from home, you can definitely take a piece of paper and just start doodling, whatever comes to mind. It could be a mind map. It could, me, sometimes I just scribble and whatever words come up, I'll start writing it. Practice my penmanship, things like that definitely helps to release whatever pressure may be in the mind, because it's like a hand coordination. And sometimes I might switch the pen and draw with my left hand instead of my dominant hand, which is the right. So that too is a way that you can actually not trick your brain, but again, strengthen parts of your brain. The other thing that I like about the brain is laughter. Oftentimes we stop laughing and we become so serious about life that we do not laugh. So it could be something that interrupts your normal programming. Humor is one of the best things to keep your livelihood up. There is someone that I know that she does laugh yoga, or I don't know if you've heard of laugh yoga, but there is a such thing as laughing yoga, where you're kind of like laughing at different octones, because what that does with the tones, it also ignites a part of your brain as well. Then number 14 being get some fresh air. Again, nature is our medicine, and a lot of the times we forget how much nature is our medicine. We don't smell the fresh roses anymore. We can't smell the ocean or the trees. But getting fresh air definitely alternates the energy, and it also can lift your spirits, especially when you do it with intent. I'm all about intention, so you definitely want to do that. And then lastly, get some sleep. Some people may have difficult time getting sleep. Melatonin, as our guest last week spoke of THC being better than CBD. Those things may be something that also can assist. A nice cup of chamomile tea can also help in getting some sleep. So looking at these things, I'm curious to know how many of you practice any of these 15 things on this list. Is it something that you can testify to and say, that has helped me, that has allowed me to do, things where I was in a moment of being stuck, because again, depression may look different for each person, dealing with emotions, grief, dealing with aging, all of those things can definitely, dealing with work for those that work, especially when you are in somewhat of a tech job or something that requires a lot of brain power to actually do your job. It's not like a clerical position. Brianna.
I just want to say, like, I was sick for the past like 2 weeks and really, really sick. And one of the things on the list was like showers. And I would just like meditate in the shower and let the cold water like run over me. And that was a game changer because like the neurons in my brain could relax, which then sent signals to my body to relax. And so I was able to kind of calm down and have like some reprieve. Especially like when the pain would be surging. So that, and then like laughter and moving, like I started to walk and then noticing in nature, like, oh my gosh, the trees and the butterfly, and like all those things really help to, when your body is sick, like it can really be a challenge. And so that list is really helpful in moments like that too. So Thank you for putting that up there.
Thank you for sharing that. That is definitely a thing, because we don't realize how a body cold or sickness can really be something that attacks the brain on different levels. But when you get to moving, it can definitely shift that energy. So I appreciate you sharing that. Miss Benton.
Yes, I caught a cold too. I had went to the Fillmore Jazz Festival and it was got a chill. And so I caught a cold for the past 2 weeks. I've been fighting it, but I still try to still do my Zoom exercise, Pilates. I didn't go into yoga because that's in person. But I just said you just need to move. And last Sunday I went to this blues thing out at the Turk Club in Hayward from 4 to 8, and I danced every dance from 4 o'clock to 8 p.m. Didn't miss one song, and I thought, wow, my legs don't hurt. I feel great. It's a beautiful day out. It just, so I did this, okay.
Dancing is a beautiful thing, because it definitely gets the body going, the blood going, and that sweat. You can break out and get rid of whatever sickness is there when you do that as well. So I appreciate you sharing that. That sun, sitting in the sun can do it too. Sunbathing, that can definitely change as well. Miss Grace, thank you for sharing, walking a lot in nature, doing art every week, and working on better sleep. I would love to see your artwork. I love art from all perspectives. So when I think of this stuff, has anyone dealt with anxiety? You can either, put a hand up or just put it in the chat, because anxiety, it is something that can handicap. I don't really want to use the word handicap, but it can put a pause on movement. When we're dealing with anxiety, when we're dealing with depression, when we're dealing with just the weight of the world. Some people may be dealing with stuff at work. I definitely implore those that are at work that may be dealing with something, on your 15-minute break, take a walk, see how that changes your frequency, changes your vibration. I really enjoy the doodling part, because that's something that is free. It's something that is very freeing. Uh, the blues place. Miss Benton, when you get back, someone's asking to share the name of the blues place in Hayward, the name of it.
Oh, it's called the Turk Club, and it's on Main Street in Hayward. They're having another blues. I'll get my thing. It's not every Sunday, but there's once a month they're gonna have another blues. I mean, and it's outdoor patio, which is nice. I was getting that sun healing, while I was dancing. But
I love that.
I'll try to get the card. Or you can come, Turf Club. They'll let you know the days they have blues. They have other musicians, but I just love the blues. I go there when they play the blues.
I love that. Miss Stephanie, hopefully you got that place that she shared.
The Turf TURF Club, and it's on Main Street in Hayward, right off A Street. And they got free parking there to the side. Free parking. It's $5. Okay.
Oh, that's not bad.
I know. I was looking for my painting because I took a painting class and I drew a picture and I'm just trying to find it to show it. It's around here somewhere in my office. And then I took a drawing class through the senior citizen with a teacher, and we learned how to draw. She showed us what to do, and we would draw things. And because I never could draw. So that was a good experience, learning drawing and also doing a painting.
Oh, that's nice. So you just exploring all options.
I do everything I can.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing. Miss Carolyn.
Good morning. Good morning.
Greetings.
So I wanted to tell Miss Benton that I think last month or maybe the month before, I saw you on Facebook at the white party, I guess, at the Wente Winery.
Oh yeah,
And
Livermore.
Yes, and you
Yeah.
can't go anywhere without somebody filming you, and you looked absolutely beautiful, and the
Oh,
ladies
thank
that you
you.
were with, it was
Thank
very
you.
lovely.
Yeah, I really.
But I wanted to ask, I'm looking at all of this matrix, and I am way too rational and safekeeping, and I want to be more experimental. But I'm feeling is okay too. I mean, I'm good there, but I want to be that risk taker and use my imagination and, you know, kind of take risk more. But it is kind of challenging sometimes, you know.
It can be. What I will say is that, and or ask rather, have you watched any animation movies lately?
No. And you asked
Okay.
that before a while back when you were talking about different animation movies. And even as a child, I wasn't particularly entertained by animation. I like the Flintstones and the Jetsons. You probably don't remember those because you're way too young.
I do because the
Oh,
Jetsons were
okay.
my favorite, and so was the Flintstones.
Right. But other than
Those was
that,
my favorite.
yeah. So
So I keep being, I don't know if you've seen the animation Soul.
no, I never heard of it.
Okay, Soul is on Netflix. That may be one that you would like. Um, and maybe even watching an animation may trigger something because you haven't really watched anything since you were younger. So when it comes to being experimental, that could be something similar that you can try. And then if there's a place that you say you may have wanted to go to, but then you go into the over analyzing or the analyzing of it, or it doesn't feel safe, see what it would be if you were to do something different than your norm.
Okay. Okay.
Like maybe say by the end of this year, you'll do something that you said you always wanted to do just to get you in that experimental, like even with maybe going to a restaurant that you've heard of, but because you don't know if it's really good and you're used to what you're used to and you don't like to experiment in that aspect, that could be a step also into experimentation.
Okay.
So you can do it in different parts, whether you've never doodled, and that may be something that you start there and say, you know what, I'm going to doodle today. I've never done that, and maybe I need to just experiment with what that feels like, or try a different food. Like I was talking to someone about a sweet potato, chili on their sweet potato. They said, oh, I never thought about putting chili on a, instead of a baked potato, they did it on a sweet potato. And that made them want to try it because they like sweet potatoes. So something simple as that, trying a new meal, trying going to a new place, or maybe even listening to some new music, a genre of music that you haven't listened to before. Not something crazy. I'm not saying go listen to some rap music and some twerk music now. It may be just listening to some country music or something like that, or even reading a book out of the normal type of books that you read.
Those are good ideas. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Miss Brenda. The class is going to be always from 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 10 a.m. So it's 1. And yes, we do meditation at times, but I do like to talk about certain topics to give people ideas to think about, because some people are not really just into the meditation part. But I do bring sound, and I do have different guests that come share total different topics. So I really appreciate you joining us, Miss Brenda, and look to see you again. And I know we had 2 hands up. I saw Miss Stephanie and Miss Benton.
Well, I lost you.
Nope, we're still here.
Let me see. I hit some button and it went away. Okay, I'm back. But I just wanted to
Okay.
show her the card. I don't know if she can. Can you see this card? Oh,
The font is really little, but it says
the
Turf
Turf
Club.
Club.
Yes.
I wanted her to see it if she could,
Oh,
because
it does have the calendar. So it has dates for August 11th, September 9th, I think, or 8th, and October 13th.
yeah, September 8th, October 13th. There's, those are days they're gonna have blues. anyway, I just wanted to share it with that.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think it was actually Miss Shirley, not Miss Stephanie, if you still want to ask your question or share. Miss Stephanie says thank you. Was it Miss Shirley that had her hand raised?
I'm traveling in the car,
Oh, okay.
and I didn't want to miss it. So I was listening, but you can find Soul on Disney Plus. My grandchildren have it, and they added me. And some of the animation in different movies, like the Chinese thing, Hidden Dragon, the tiger thing, those are kind of interesting if you don't like just the other graphics. Those kind of expand you when people are using their bodies. You're figuring out how are they moving like that across buildings and whatever. So that's another thing that can kind of stimulate your brain.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Now I'm interested in the one you just said, the Chinese movies.
Okay, I
Miss
found my picture. This is a
Oh,
picture
that's
that I drew
nice.
in the drawing class. My first picture. We just followed the teacher and did what she said, and this is it. So I got to get a frame and put it on the wall in my office.
Oh, that is beautiful. Reminds me of one that I did for my mom and sent to her. That's a
Yeah,
lovely colors, lovely colors.
thank you.
I definitely thank you for joining us, Miss Martha. Really appreciated seeing your name today. I really like the dealing with colors really also ignite the brain. So I definitely would say the colors, whether it's the colors that you put on, the colors that you use when you do your artwork, even some people who do work with candles. Some people don't realize that if you buy a candle, it could be a blue candle, white candle, whichever color candle, freestanding or in a glass. If you're staring at the flame, that also ignites the brain. So when you do your meditations, you can get a tea light candle and just stare at the flame of that candle and see what that does to your brain, where your mind kind of goes in that process. Because there is something about that flame and that fire that ignites your internal fire, your within yourself, the things that you, because again, we're all the elements. So when we ignite that part of our brain, is definitely something that can help. Miss Carolyn has shared something for the collective. For those who are in Oakland, there is a sound bath session at Grown Woman's Dance Collective Pilates Studio. It is located on the corner of 9th and Washington. For those that have never been to a sound bath and you are in the Bay Area, I definitely recommend to check it out. And definitely truly see what that does for you. If you cannot get to the sound bath, you can definitely do that and find a frequency on Google. For example, if you are looking, not Google, YouTube, if you are looking to work with your heart and say you have things going on with your heart, if you have things going on with your gut, because we know that the first brain is really your gut near that umbilical cord area. And then you have other frequencies that are specifically for anxiety and things that you may be dealing with emotionally. The movie Inside Out 1 and 2. I still have yet to see number 2, but number 1 is definitely how the brain may work and how your emotions and brain go hand in hand. Miss Phyllis, you are the one that shared that. I see you unmuted.
Inside Out 2 takes it to another whole level.
Okay.
And I find that for me, I like going to a lot of animations with a lot of little people because they do have a different perspective and they do allow me to bring the childlike side out of me. And they look at things from a different perspective. So, Carolyn, if you have access to grandkids or little people, they tend to help you to build on that imagination and help you to kind of get outside of yourself.
Thank you. I don't. All of our children are kind of older now. But I can certainly watch that on television. Thank you.
Definitely.
That's a nice challenge for me.
Yeah, I'm a big kid. Orion in the Dark is one of my favorites as well. That's on Netflix. It does talk about how fears can stifle your growth. So those that may be fearful of taking that, experiential route or that take a risk route, that movie really does speak to that. How sometimes we allow fear to block the ability to see the wholeness of what is in our day-to-day life. It's really a very, very good animation. Me myself, I am just traveling from the East Coast, and so being for me in different cities, different states, that also ignites different parts of my brain because I experienced three different weather seasons and patterns. It went from thunderstorm to hot to a nice breeze. And because I'm aware of nature, I did was able to see things that most of us wouldn't be able to see because the brain is so compacted with all of the things, history of work and history of trauma and history of all of these things, to where during my journey outdoors, I actually saw more dragonflies than I have ever seen. I've seen bumblebees, bees bigger than the bees that I see in LA. I got to witness how people operate when it just rains for 15 minutes and thunderstorms and lightning, and then it's gone and sunny again. The ocean and how in speaking to the water, praying for a god sister and watching how seaweed just kind of moved with the words that I was saying. And so this brain of ours, the capacity of it is very vast. And again, Lucy is a very wonderful movie that talks about the capacity of the brain. And I even challenge you, or I wouldn't even say challenge, give yourself the opportunity to even watch a movie, a sci-fi movie or something opposite of your norm. If crime and law and all of that is your normal, just think of what that does to your brain. If you're looking at politics all the time, what does that do to your brain? If you're looking at, judge shows, what does that do to the brain instead of entertaining those other aspects? The childlike stuff, the nature documentaries, culture documentaries about other cultures and other countries. All of those things can really trigger your brain. And since we're talking about World Brain Day, why not explore the world of music, world of food, world of all of these different things that are available to us. I do know in some cities or states, you might not have a variety of different food. It may just be, your basic American food, soul food. You may not have Filipino or Samoan food, Pacific Islander food. But if you even maybe look up a new recipe and cook it because you may want to experiment, that is also a way to kind of give your brain the ability to operate in a way that you're still exploring and curious in life. Because sometimes, as Miss Phyllis shared with children, they have a perspective that we don't even have. They're seeing things from a different lens. And I watched that this weekend with someone who was 32, with the oldest being in their 60s. And the difference in how one explains something oftentimes could be shunned because a person is younger, when sometimes we need to embrace the younger person to really reignite that inner child, reignite that adolescent, reignite that young adult self, because again, we become complacent, or we've had so much done in our lives that we forget the simple joys of what it is to be youthful, playful, experiential, curious, because some of us were taught not to ask questions. Some of us were taught, don't ask why, just because I said so. And so sometimes it's a reprogramming to not have to be or think that way, to just say, it's okay to still be curious about this said thing because I'm still here learning. I'm still here to use my brain, and I'm not even using 10% of the brain. But when we go around those 4 quadrants, then you're able to experience more and have a new perspective. Because I know me, when I was younger, I didn't realize that I was doing yoga as a child. All the stretching and the acrobats that we do now as an adult looking at yoga, we were always stretching and doing the things that now people make a big business out of, you know. So when I think of just all of the sound, music, um, art, you want to get out of the brain and not be so logical, not so analytical, because that is what creates the anxiety. When we stay in the over analyzing and planning, if we're just consistent on that one side of the brain, we're not using the opportunity to utilize the other side of the brain. So collectively, the movement, the dance, the creative stuff is what brings the balance to our lives. So in that, there are a lot of different foods. Just as Jeanette shared, walnuts is a very good nut because it looks like the brain, but you want to be mindful and not eat so many walnuts. You may want to do more of the fatty foods like the salmon or the things of that nature. So there are other mushrooms as well. Lion's mane is a good mushroom to take. Lion's mane mushroom. You can also cook that, but they also have it in the capsule and they also have it in tincture form as well. Those are good for the brain as well. And then ashwagandha, which we spoke of before, and silagit, which was spoken of before. So if you have not seen the previous recordings, they can be found on Facebook, Good Life, Healthy Aging, and you are able to go back because again, all of these things are, there's no separation. There is no separation. So we have to, again, reclaim our inner child in order to have the good life and not forget that this is a playground. We're here to play. We're here to have fun. We're here to explore. If you do not have the ability to travel far, get on the plane or whatnot, explore your city. What museums have you not gone to? What artwork galleries may you not have gone to? That is also a good way to activate the brain. Are there any other questions or shared? We have shares. We have about 9 minutes left, and I just want to see if there's anyone that can relate to this. Brain foods. Okay, the brain foods again are lion's mane, mushrooms. You can also do ashwagandha, silagit, and another good one is well, mushrooms in its entirety, those for sure. Ashwagandha and black seed oil. Any questions? Any shares? Well, I definitely want to do a moment of meditation. Just to kind of, you're welcome, Miss Grace. Just kind of bring it full circle to set the intent. We have 9 days left in this month. We have a powerful full moon that is taking place. It is the second full moon in Capricorn, which has a lot to do about what are you letting go of? What are you about to do for the remainder of this year? What is your intention that you would like to set for yourself? How do you see yourself flowing into the remainder now that you can utilize these four, and I'll put the screen back up, these four different ways of how the brain works. Again, how can you actively, intentionally apply all four quadrants as you go through your process? Now, it does take muscle memory. It will not happen overnight. So you definitely want to give yourself grace as you go through this process. I would definitely say for yourself, if you really want to work through this process, what is the one thing that you have been over analyzing? What is the one thing that you can't get through this whole process? In what way are you over emotional that may not allow you to be experimental? In what way are you maybe over organized or so structured to where you don't allow room for spontaneity? Start with just one thing. As you do that, you can add another thing. And again, you don't want to overwhelm yourself and you don't want to set an expectation, but you want to set an opportunity for you to grow and see how all of these four things, how will it change the way that you think about the said thing in order for you to again play and enjoy this aspect of life, playfulness, and then be supported in what you're doing. Because when you go through this process, you will attract certain things. I.e., perfect example for me. I went through an email, my emails, and I was deleting emails, and I set the intention to want to reach out to a program that I once worked for. A week later, while I'm at the airport, the person that I said I was going to email this week was in the airport. So sometimes we have to understand that this is an assimilation. We live in assimilation. So when we think outside of the box and we have an imagination, and I was willing to take the risk and just offer, hey, this is what I offer now. And sure enough, I aligned with it. So, Miss Carolyn, I see your hands raised.
Yes, I wanted to share that similar to what you just said was that um, back in late January, I with my after right after my husband passed away, I couldn't find his wedding ring and his car key. And so I just really had a lot of anxiety around that. Like, where could it be? I don't have a lot of hiding places, and I really wore myself out looking for it and caused, a great deal of anxiety. And then after about, a month, I just decided to just release it, just to let it go, realizing that I can buy another key, even though they're very expensive. Can't go have one made. And his wedding ring, he that had meaning to us when we were married together, both alive, but really trying to not overanalyze, like panic and all of that. And yesterday morning, it was it had to be, the Lord. It had to be God, because Spirit just told me, go look there. And I went there, and the key was in the container there. And right after that, I said, now go look in the drawer to the right. And there was his ring. Yeah, it was just like, I know it had to be God, because it was just as clear. I wasn't even thinking about those two items. I had let them go. And that happened yesterday morning. So very similar.
That's beautiful. You found it on the day of the full moon, and
Wow.
and so it's an attestament to how much we hold on to a particular thought process or thing or what have you, and when we let go of control and we allow spirit to guide us, and we're just mindful, it's still a moment of mindfulness, because had you not been clear, you wouldn't have been able to be guided to find it.
That's true. Yeah.
And so when we go through these cycles of these different parts of ourselves in our brain and we let go of the control, it always appears when it's supposed to appear. But it's in, again, closing doors to other stuff that we've overanalyzed. When we close that door, then it appears. But when we hold on, it's like a bar of soap that just slips out of our hand. So we have to just understand that this is assimilation and we are co-creating, but when we set an intention, we have to trust the process that that intention is going to manifest.
Yes. Yes.
So I love that you found that in such a timely manner, even though it may not have been timely. 7 months later sometimes is what it takes. And so with that, I definitely want to ensure that we all understand how grace, giving ourselves grace, because just to let go of that control, that is an example of giving grace. And when we do that, we allow things in life to play out the way that we intended it to be. So if you could just take a moment before you get in your day, or if you've already been in flow of your day, just take a moment to really see how can you, again, be rational, protect yourself by doing, the preventative things that you have to do to make sure your day goes accordingly, but feel how you feel throughout the day. Don't burn out. If you don't have the capacity, It's okay to say, I don't have the capacity today, and it'll get done, or whatever it needs to happen will happen. If you don't have the capacity to listen to someone and hear their stuff for the day, it's okay. No is a complete sentence. And then in what ways can you play for the day? For me, I'm going to sunbathe today and rest because I just landed about 2 hours ago from a red eye flight. So all the puffiness, yes, is present, but I'm still going to love on myself today by sitting in the sun and seeing what comes, what insects or bees or butterflies or what in nature comes and speaks to me while I'm out there being playful with myself. So again, I appreciate you all coming in, joining to discuss the World Brain Day and how the brain works. Hopefully it's been beneficial in you setting your intent for the week and how you move forward with things that you may overthink.